Picture, if you will, the basement laboratory at King's College London in 1953, a space heavy with the sharp scent of chemical reagents and developing fluid. A woman, her demeanor cool and intensely focused, stands guard beside a massive X-ray camera, waiting for the infinitesimal diffraction spots to appear on the film. She is unaware that her creation, Photo 51, is being shown to her competitors by a colleague without her consent. That photograph, with its perfect X-shaped pattern of light, would instantly illuminate the final beacon in humanity's quest to understand the essence of life. Those who rode upon the brilliance of that discovery would later ascend the Nobel podium, while her name would vanish into the footnotes of history for decades. Her name was Rosalind Franklin. Tonight, by the soft pulse of the hearth, let us journey through her true life with this story, one you need not labor to remember. She was a soul who guarded her dignity with absolute rigor amidst the chilling winds of a male-dominated scientific world, never ceasing her exploration even as the shadows of death closed in. Why does supreme talent so often walk hand in hand with abyssal loneliness? Let us, in the quiet of the night, slowly unveil the luminous yet tragic mystery of the Dark Lady of DNA. Rosalind's life was characterized from the beginning by a certain untimely lucidity and austerity. Born in 1920 to a wealthy Jewish family in London, her father envisioned her as a socialite devoted to charitable circles. Yet, at 15, Rosalind calmly noted in her diary, "I want to be a scientist." In an era that viewed women as mere academic ornaments, such a declaration was nothing short of a crusade against the very fabric of society. During her studies at Cambridge, she exhibited a precision that unnerved her male peers. She had no taste for vague inferences, she demanded only hard, unyielding facts. Though the smoke of World War II threatened to disrupt her work, she spent thousands of grueling hours in wartime laboratories peering into the microscopic world of coal structures. She mastered the world's most sophisticated X-ray crystallography techniques, a craft requiring the glacial patience of an iceberg and the tactile precision of a surgeon. From her long confinements in the lab, her complexion bore the pallor of one long deprived of sunlight, yet her eyes remained vibrantly bright, as if capable of piercing the shell of matter to gaze directly at the underlying code constructed of atoms. This solitary, almost ascetic mode of research forged in her a unique charisma, a state of ultimate peace that sought no applause, only the perfection of a closed logical loop. In 1951, when she was invited back to King's College London to study the structure of DNA, she had no inkling that she was stepping into a meticulously laid psychological quagmire. Maurice Wilkins, the lab's assistant director, mistakenly viewed her as an assistant under his employ, whereas Rosalind was, in fact, a scholar with her own independent research mandate. This misalignment, fueled by gender bias, filled the corridors with a suffocating tension. During the 4 p.m. tea breaks, while the male scientists gathered in exclusive lounges to hold court, Rosalind, as a woman, was barred from entry. This deliberate isolation did not demoralize her. Instead, it granted her a pure, undisturbed space for creation. She was like an artisan on a deserted island carving out the starry sky, pouring all her energy into refining the clarity of her photographic plates. Through countless silent midnights, she performed exhaustive mathematical modeling on the diffraction patterns of DNA fibers. She firmly believed that before firm experimental data was secured, any inspiration regarding the shape of life was cheap. It was out of this almost clinical obsession with rigor that the famous Photo 51 was born. In that moment, she had effectively touched the fingerprints of God, perceiving the double helix form that explained the reproductive secrets of all species. Yet, she chose to continue her silent verification, determined to offer the world an irrefutable truth rather than a model that was merely aesthetically pleasing. Yet, the race for scientific discovery is never solely about logic, it is rife with cold, calculated power dynamics. While Rosalind spent her nights calculating distances on the plates, her colleague Wilkins privately showed Photo 51 to James Watson and Francis Crick of Cambridge. Watson would later admit in his memoir, "The moment I saw the picture my mouth fell open and my pulse began to race." Based on Rosalind's core data, the two rivals constructed the double helix model within weeks and swiftly published their findings in Nature. Because of her meticulous nature, she lost the race for fame. In Watson and Crick's paper, her contribution was relegated to a mere useful verification. More piercing still was the mockery that followed at the celebratory banquets, where those men dubbed her Rosie or the Dark Lady, painting her as a dour, unpolished, and eccentric woman. In the face of this academic plunder and personal disparagement, Rosalind displayed a near-divine equanimity. She engaged in no public feuds, nor did she hurl accusations of betrayal. She simply packed her instruments in silence and left the laboratory that had caused her so much grief. She once told a friend, "Truth is there, it doesn't matter who says it first, what matters is that it is revealed." This courage to strip herself away from fame and fortune made her, in that moment, more monumental than any Nobel laureate. After leaving King's College, Rosalind moved to Birkbeck College to begin her research on the structure of the tobacco mosaic virus. Those were perhaps the happiest and most liberated days of her life. There she was surrounded by a team that held her in the highest esteem, and she was the undisputed soul of the lab. However, years of exposure to X-ray radiation began to exact a silent, lethal toll. In 1956, at the age of 36, Rosalind was diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer, a result, in all likelihood, of her excessive exposure to radiation in her quest for the perfect photographic plate. Throughout the agony of her illness, she displayed a heartbreaking resilience. Even in her final months, when she was too weak to leave her bed, she insisted that her assistants move the microscope to her bedside. From her hospital room, she penned her final papers on the core structure of viruses, her analytical touch as precise as it had been at its peak. Her life seemed to be a series of losses, the glory of the Nobel Prize, the respect of her peers, and now her young life. Yet, within her heart governed by the laws of conservation, each loss of a secular burden only served to sharpen her insight into truth. This exquisite balance allowed her, even in the twilight of her life, to possess a clarity and majesty that remained unperturbed. In 1958, 37-year-old Rosalind Franklin passed away quietly amidst a spring rain in London. 4 years later, Watson, Crick, and Wilkins were awarded the Nobel Prize for their work on DNA. On the podium, they did not utter a single word regarding her name. It was not until many years later, when Watson restored the truth of Photo 51 in his late-life penance, that the world realized this woman, who never donned an academic robe for an award, was the true gatekeeper. With a lifetime of being unpaid by glory and unnamed by fame, she answered the question of dignity. True radiance needs no title for its coronation. Her life was symmetrical. Within an unjust reality, she achieved an internal equilibrium through pure scientific devotion. Our story for tonight has ended. Rosalind is now at rest in a dimension free from gender prejudice, where only perfect microscopic geometry remains. I hope that there, before a photographic plate that belongs to her alone, she sees the purest of light and shadow. Now, please lay down all your grievances and weariness. Let your breathing become light and balanced, like the rhythm of a double helix. In that sea of wisdom, where there is no strife or upheaval, you will find your own destination of peace, a place from which you need never go into exile. Good night.